All right,
So
so the
far,
personal statement, yeah.
the personal statement, yes. I'm excited to, to get in depth with you. Um so you read the
Yeah.
new edited version. Should we start with the first paragraph? Because I did change a little bit the opening. Because my goal here is to basically kind of as an attention grabber. Like personal statement, obviously is very personal, and as you know, not everybody can relate to this story. However, I want to relate to whoever's going to read this in some sort of way, like spring of 2006. After you read this, it gets you to think of where were you in your life in the spring of 2006, let's say. I also wanted to leave it open ended as to not telling, like where did my mom go at the time, because I wanted to be interested, and then when they read the second and then lead to third paragraph, then they find out where she went. So, what's your thoughts on the opening paragraph?
I like it because, yeah, as you said, you're not giving everything away right away. So there's a bit of a hook, the uncertainty, the not knowing. Why is she not there? A lot of unanswered questions there. It takes time before you even get there. The third paragraph, even that's where you start alluding to international travel, separation there. And you also say that you'll reunite 8 years later almost. So you do close that open loop, which is nice, but it takes a while to get there, which is also good in a way. It keeps people engaged.
Okay, because I'm still struggling with the third paragraph. To be honest, I couldn't, because before I placed it right after the second paragraph, and it just doesn't it doesn't flow well. It's like you read all this narrative from that night, but then it's like boom, she left Cambodia to United States. It just doesn't flow well. So I separate it to the third paragraph. I'm still struggling with it. I don't like the second sentence, or maybe I'm just being too critical. What do you think on that? Because I think it's really important to, yeah, like you said, to wrap it up and show. I mean, I have to show it somehow, some way, that where she went and how long did it take.
Mm-hmm. Maybe there's somewhere else you can close that fully and say 8 years later. So maybe you don't, the first sentence of that paragraph talking about Cambodia, at least you're explaining and clarifying that does relate to international travel in some way, potentially immigration in some way. And then you address it immediately in the following paragraph about the US Embassy in Cambodia and a visa. So then they get the context. Okay, this is immigration visa issues, most likely. You're
Yeah.
covering for yourself. Presumably your mom relates to that as well. But the 8 years specifically, you could get to that later if you wanted to. You may not even need to cover it now. So you could consolidate the third paragraph and the fourth paragraph by removing that second sentence and then just combining them.
Oh, so you're saying, like in combining the last night with my mom before she left to the first interview paragraph? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
Or
putting it in that paragraph in some way and shifting from your mom to you may not make a lot of sense. So I wouldn't do it immediately, but you could include that information somewhere in that paragraph.
okay, okay, I see
Or
what
you
you're.
could include it in the following paragraph also, because the following paragraph is about your mom specifically. Or at least saying, be able to see your mother again. Little did I, or like you could, I mean, this is just one way, but little did I know that 8 years later, my wish would be granted. Something like that.
Okay, I see what you're saying. It's so funny that like triggers me because I did write little did I know, but then I deleted it because I was like, yeah, because I was like, I don't, I want it to be as simple as it is, not making, but also not as, I don't know, casual. I'm really being critical, sentence to sentence, to be honest with you.
That's
Um,
good. No, I think you should be, and that's how the best writing comes about. But the 8 years loophole closer could come at any point in this essay. It doesn't need to be in that third paragraph specifically, and if it's not fitting smoothly, I would put it somewhere else. So put that to the side and potentially include it somewhere else in the essay.
okay, that makes so much sense because yeah, I think the part where she left, explaining where she left Cambodia to the United States, I think it's really important after the second paragraph to, I guess, let people, let the readers know that this is where she went and not. Okay, I see what you're saying. Thank you. Um, the fourth, the the fourth paragraph, I did include it in a very lengthy email. If you, get to that sentence, using my broken English, because I did use my broken English at the time. What do you think on that? Because I wanted to show that, back then I didn't know much, and now I show you through this writing.
I see what you're saying. So you have concerns that maybe when they see you describing your own English as being broken, you want them to know it's significantly improved since 2013. Is that the what you're getting at there?
Because I didn't at first, and I talked to some LSAT friends, and they said that I should do that because it really show the improvement in the essay itself. I don't know if that I don't want it to bring it to attention that I only learn English for so many years, and I want to go to law school and learn obviously the law of the U.S. So I don't know if I should address that or bring it to attention.
Well, the most concise way I can think of would be to say using my then broken English,
Okay.
clarifying it was back then. Since then, it's improved significantly. Obviously, they'll see from this personal statement that your English is very good. But with non-native speakers, there is often the concern that maybe somebody helped you and that it doesn't reflect your true writing abilities, which is why the writing sample becomes important for non-native speakers.
Yeah.
So your
Yeah.
writing sample will be solid. That concern will be addressed. But I think also adding then broken specifically shows that you're saying it's broken then, you're not describing your current English proficiency.
Okay. Yeah. That's yes. Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, and then the rest is fine. Well, I do want to address because the my time at SQ Law, that paragraph specifically, because um, throughout like last time when the classroom was pointing that out, the transition, I did try to to kind of make it smoother. I'm not sure if I've done that, to be honest. I read it so many times that I don't know what is what anymore. Um, my question is also like I didn't have enough time to do anything to help that particular case because I only worked there for intern there for a year, a month and a half. I don't know if I should address this, but it was also a turning point for me when I interned there. That's when I realized that I could really see myself going to law school, become an attorney one day. I don't know if I should, because you last time I think you said that it can be taken out or it doesn't have to, as long as I make it smoother and parallel with my own story in some way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I would still agree with that. I think the transition could be smoother. And even if you were not able to work on that particular case or significantly address that particular case, in a way, that's kind of interesting. It's unexpected because my default assumption as like a template or a cliche would be, I worked on this case. I was able to help a lot. Now I want to help even more as an attorney. Nothing wrong with that. That's fantastic. We love that. But it's more interesting and unexpected if you worked on this case or were exposed to this case and you weren't able to do anything about it. That's kind of sad, but it's also not the end for you in your career journey because you're going to go to law school, you're going to get the JD, and then you'll be equipped with tools in the diploma to be able to actually help others in that similar situation. And you said that like you say previous sentence, I wondered how many cases besides my own were also being mishandled. Then we have an example of a case at this law firm that is being mishandled in custody for more than 4 years. It's a painful experience to witness this, and I wasn't able to help. But I want to help others in similar situations going forward.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So just describing that, I can only help so much. I helped a lot, but I wanted to help more in the future that I can obtain this law degree. Okay. Okay, awesome. And then my closing paragraph. Because last time, to be honest, before I sent it to you, I had a thought. I had to think really hard, and I wrote a different opening paragraph. That's why the rest of the paragraph last time was kind of half and half. But I did, in the ending. What do you think of that? And because also the length. I think this is more than 2 pages double space.
Hmm.
And a lot of school, some school that I want to apply to, only 2 pages double space.
Right, correct. Yeah, so it is a little bit on the longer side. And this closing paragraph is, I don't even think you need it because you're explaining what's already implicit in the essay. Like you're paralleling your experience with the experience at the law firm. That's already implicit in the essay because they're juxtaposed, yours, then theirs. Now you're saying my experience with the US Embassy, meaning personally, and then at the law firm, together reaffirm. That's already in the statement. So it's like you're saying something that's obvious in a way.
Okay. So would you like even say anything in a sentence to like finish off with this the SQ law paragraph just to wrap it up, or would you just leave it as is?
If you wanted to put a concluding sentence that ties them together, I would do it at the end of the previous paragraph where you're already talking about the other law firm, the law firm.
Okay, like together and not like in a separate paragraph.
Exactly. Yeah, because you don't need to devote 3 sentences to this or 4 sentences to this when you could do one that would be just as good and help you shorten the essay at the same time. You also mentioned URM status. I would not include that in this essay. I would include that in a separate diversity statement.
Okay, I see what you're saying, which is the next question I want to ask with the diversity statement, because some schools saying 1 page double spaced and some say 2. And there's a few topics that I want to ask your opinion on, because I honestly don't know what to write about now, because this is still in a work in progress, and then studying for the LSAT, obviously. So I have two topics. One being growing up in Cambodia for 16 years, because I do think that's a significant time, before coming here to a different culture, obviously. I did have to be, like my own emotional support. So I want to talk about that in depth, kind of to tie with the theme of my life in Cambodia when my mom left, to the
Right.
personal statement, if that meant, yeah. The other one, though, is very personal. It's like growing up in an abusive household. It doesn't really tie into that. I mean, there could be a way to tie that into with a personal statement, but I'm just not sure whether I should bring up that point because there's a lot of things happen, but I don't want to jump from one point to another. I want to, just stick with one theme, one point.
Stick with one theme within the diversity statement or in the application as a whole?
The application as a whole, I would say, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, diversity statement and personal statement is very important to kind of get to know the applicant. And
Correct, yeah.
yes, and my goal for 2-3 minutes that they spend reading this, I want them to get like me out of this, like the applicant, get to know the applicant a little bit more than the rest of the application.
Yeah, correct. That's true. That's true. I think either of those topics could make for a good diversity statement. It's all in the execution, especially when you're dealing with sensitive topics like an abusive household. There are many ways one could go about describing the exact same situation. And so you want to be careful how you go about it. There could be fantastic essays that result from that topic, though.
Okay. Was this the growing up in Cambodia?
Yeah, either one could be fine. It's all in the execution. I would need to see drafts before I could say. If you wrote 2 drafts, then the question is which one is a better draft or which one is a better road to potentially go down. That could be the way to solve the issue.
Yeah. The problem is though that, like I said, some school 2 pages double space and some was 1. So I'm like struggling with them. Like I don't know whether to write separate ones for that school for 1 page and then the other for 2.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. There's no easy answer on that. If you write one double-spaced statement for diversity statement, then you're covered for both. But if there's more you wanted to tell that didn't fit within that space, you could have an extra paragraph that's like a take it or leave it. Keep it for the 2-page requirements, remove it for the 1-page requirements. Can get complicated though, and you don't want to try and go over it. So I'd say maybe it's simpler to just do one. It's up to you though. Once you write it, you'll see, do you really need more than 1 page? Concise is often better when possible.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
the other question is last question, because I know we are going a little bit over. Should I keep this diversity statement as a narrative, kind of similar to my personal statement, or should I write it in a like a telling or different style?
I think narrative is powerful.
Okay.
I would keep it as personal as possible as well. So personal statement and diversity statement don't need to differ in tone or perspective. An addendum, like explaining a low GPA, explaining a low LSAT score, explaining a gap in resume, those should be matter of fact and very concise. So you don't want to be anything approaching flowery or super detail oriented. I mean, details, yes, but in detail, personal details, no. Relevant details, yes, for the addendum. But for diversity statement, it could also be personal in nature as well. So that's fine. I think the same tone as you currently have would be perfectly fine. One thing I want to clarify, though, since you mentioned URM at the end of your personal statement draft, is that technically my understanding is that for URM admissions boost, URM is typically considered African American or Black, Hispanic or Latino, and Indigenous or Native American. Asian Americans, Cambodian or not, typically don't qualify for a URM boost and are not typically considered underrepresented minorities. But that being said, you can still write a diversity statement regardless.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that, because I honestly didn't really. I mean, I thought, because like a minority. I think I could bring it up being a first generation to graduate from college.
Certainly, and you should.
Yeah, and that could be something. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Anything else?
We are going a little bit over. I have one last question.
Yeah, go ahead. Shoot. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so I went to two institutions, Monco Community College and one Temple University, to finish off my degree. I had 3 C's from Monco and 2 C's from Temple. That could look like a pattern in my overall transcript. Do you think it's necessary to write an addendum explaining that?
I would.
Okay. Yeah, and that'll be all for today. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, Cheetah, well, it was great connecting with you. We'll, of course, workshop this draft and any others in an upcoming application essay workshop inside the course. So this wasn't the last time we'll talk about this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. It's really helpful to just have you clarify everything and answering all my questions. I had a lot of questions today.
Of course, glad to help. Definitely. I'll see you in class soon.
Yeah, all right, see you.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I'll wish you all the best and take care.